Welcome to an electronic workshop on active learning and assessment. I'm Devshika Bose and I'm one of the instructional design consultants at the Idea Shop.
And I am Maria Schimmel, the supervisor of the Online Testing Center. So our first step is to ask you to take a moment to think about active learning. What do you think it is? Do you use it in your class? Do you want to? The definition of active learning is doing things. It's thinking about the things that you're doing, and it also involves learning activities beyond a regular lecture.
So now we are going to discuss some of the benefits which we might reap if we were to use active learning. So one of the first things is that active learning activities allows your students to get just-in-time feedback from you. When and whenever they're working on their projects, you can give them feedback. Also, as an instructor, you can receive information about your students' learning. It also encourages the view that teaching is an ongoing process. So when your students learn a particular step, you can move to the next, or you can review the previous step as and when it happens. Also, it helps students become better monitors of their own learning because they are actively engaged in it.
Now here's an example it's a very obvious example of giving a student a handout to teach them something that might be a little better taught in an active situation. This handout shows how to fold an origami frog. It's not even in English. If I were to give you this handout and tell you we were going to have a test, you might feel a little bit nervous. When I present you the test, it could look something like this. Based off of the handout I gave you, I am now going to ask you some multiple choice questions. Hopefully in your experience with folding origami frogs, you might ask, are you serious? This is not the way to go. But if I were to present you with an origami frog folding video, or show you personally how I would fold an origami frog and then do it with you, you might retain the information better. But how might you assess the successful learning of folding an origami frog? One way to do it is to see, does the project you just created look correct? Does the frog look right? Our frog does. Next, you could see, does the frog actually jump? We know it's supposed to. Hopefully all your students in class who just created this frog with you are now bouncing it across their desks. So if the answer is yes, and your frog looks right, then you did a great job. You have successfully passed the origami frog folding portion of the lesson.
Okay, now we're going to ask you to take a moment to consider some of the examples of active learning that you are currently already using in your classroom.
Case studies is a good example. They bring real-life examples of real-life situations to class. It helps the students make a deeper connection. This could be something they relate to. And it lets them make suggested actions for current issues. It helps them feel a little more connected to the community and the world. And they'll also retain the information better. Class discussion can happen in any size of class. It's a learning experience that's guided by the professor. It helps students explore different perspectives. They also get to show respect for each other's different perspectives and experiences, and they develop their collaborative learning skills. Another example you might have heard before is called Think, Pair, Share. This is where you present a topic or idea to your students in class, ask them to think about it, pair them up, and then ask them to share their ideas with each other. You can also ask these pairs to share their ideas with the whole class. It's a great opportunity to get everybody's input and have everybody contribute to the class discussion.
Other examples of how you can use active learning is using a learning cell. So this learning cell is somewhat like flipped learning. So here what you do is you ask your students to read a particular reading or watch a video and then come to class with 5 questions which they have made up and then come and ask those questions to their peers. The peers, if they can answer the question, well and good. If not, they come back to the instructor for the questions to be answered, and you can go around helping the students find the answers or give them the answers. Another good active learning example is the use of the minute paper. So here what you do is after the students have gone through a particular lesson, you ask them to summarize their understanding of the lesson in a paper which they can write within 1 minute. So here students are helped in the sense that they can figure out what they learned and what they didn't. They do a self-evaluation when they have to write their understanding, and it helps them to fill up the gaps in their learning and ask appropriate questions of their instructor if needed. Collaborative learning groups are where you basically divide your class into groups and you give them various projects or parts of the same project which they work in groups, collaborate with each other, and complete.
Student debate. With this example, you can assign students a topic and they can gather information to support their views or their assigned views. They can take an opportunity to show their knowledge and experience in verbal presentation, and depending on the debate topics, it might be something fiery. You might get a lot of people involved. It's a great opportunity to show how knowledgeable the students can be and how effective their debating skills can grow to be. Reaction to a video is also a really fun option for active learning because students love movies. It's a great alternative presentation mode. The video can be related to your topic. A good idea is to give questions to the students before the video so that they'll pay more attention during it. If they have a handout in front of them that every few minutes they have to fill in the answer, they're more likely to pay attention, stay awake, keep focused on the video. After the video is done, you can divide them into groups and get their discussions or reactions. Some professors report that there is a lot of discussion after videos because there might be things that are different from what you taught the students. There might be subjects you haven't covered yet. There might be proof in the pudding. It might show exactly what you taught the students, and some of your questions can relate to that. Small group discussion is another great choice. It allows students to express themselves in the classroom. They might be more comfortable talking in small groups, so those shy students will have an opportunity to have their voices heard. It gives everyone a chance to put in their 2 cents, and you can also make it into a game, a competition, or even an assignment.
So use of games in class is a healthy way to engage students in some kind of competition where they can go ahead and find materials or solve a problem or synthesize materials that they have learned or even find unique solutions to problems. Learning by teaching is another example where students can self-evaluate their learning. So when students are asked to teach other students what they have just learned, it gives them an opportunity to find loopholes in their learning and then go ask questions and find solutions to problems which they didn't know before. Brainstorming is a good way to engage students in thinking about a topic, going and finding information, looking at topics from different perspectives, and basically collaborating to find solutions to the project at hand.
A concept map is a neat idea where you can ask students to create a meaningful pattern from terms that you provide. You can ask them to show how they're linked, and with this problem, they might also have multiple correct answers to show you. It's a great opportunity to get students to discuss why their answers look the way they do, and really think about what the connections between the terms that you've taught them. Boise State actually has a free tool that you can use to do this, Lucid Charts. It's something available through Google, and it allows you to electronically link terms or create concept maps in whatever format you'd like, so students could even get creative with it. Quick Thinks are very similar to minute papers. They give you an opportunity, a great opportunity actually, to refocus your students. So if it's at the beginning of class, perhaps you're asking them to correct an error, complete a sentence, reorder steps, or interpret or paraphrase a topic or image that you've provided them. This is a great way to just get their attention, and then you can move forward into your lecture. Another neat idea is called plus delta. With this, you actually have the students pull out a blank piece of paper at the end of class, fold it in half. Over one side of the paper, one half of the paper, you would have them put a plus sign, and on the other half of the paper, you would have them put a delta sign, which is a triangle and the symbol for change. In the plus side of the paper, the students can write all the things that went really well with class. What things did they learn well? What was very clear for them? On the delta side, this is an opportunity to put what they would like to see changed. So we're not being negative at all about things, but it is a great way for the students to let you know what was not clear in class, what could have been taught better, or is there a different way to teach it? This will let you know if the students are still confused about particular topics, if many of them are listing the same thing. So it's a very, very effective way to get quick feedback from every class if you'd like. Another term is called muddiest point, and this is an example where a professor at the end of class might start a sentence, the muddiest point of the lecture is, and then the student would fill it in, the discussion, the homework, something that they weren't quite clear on. And another great example of where students who list the same muddiest point over and over are trying to tell you they need a little more clarity on the subject.
Now we are going to give you a few moments to think about what type of assessments do you currently use in your classroom.
The definition of assessment is the act of assessing, appraising, and evaluating.
So the question then remains, how do you use active learning in your assessments? Before we jump into that, one thing to consider is, what are you assessing? Often when we are way into the semester, we are likely to forget about the learning objectives for the course. So one good thing might be to always connect your learning objectives to your assessment instruments. Another good idea would be to choose assessment tools which are consistent with your teaching style. So if you are using active learning activities in your classroom, so it might be a good idea to have assessments which measure those. Explaining the purpose of your assessments to your students is very important. For example, if you are doing a case study in your classroom, your students might be confused on why they are doing a case study when they were expecting multiple choice questions. So it's good to explain to your students so they know the objective and the purpose of the activity. Reviewing and analyzing the outcomes of an assessment is important so that their students know what exactly was assessed, how well they did, how they can improve, and how they can learn more in future. Sharing the results of that analysis and how you are assessing your students is important so that the students know that they're going to be assessed by a rubric or by a project, and this is how they are learning in their classroom.
How to assess active learning. The first example is rubrics. A rubric is a pre-created example of perhaps a best case assignment and what you would like to see in order to give them full points. Explaining spelling is important, grammar is important, you want these points to be hit. You can give yourself examples as well of a best case full points project, maybe a middle of the line project, and a low case no points project. It helps keep you objective, and it's something that you could also provide to your students before the assignment to give them a guide as to what you want from them. Peer reviews is another great way to assess students. It allows them, especially in large classes, to be paired together and to go over each other's assignments. It spares you a little bit of extra work in having to review everyone else's assignments. And if you've given them a rubric, it gives them a safe way to offer each other constructive criticism. Reflections are also really good examples. As soon as you finish a project or creating a project, you can ask for the students to reflect on the learning process. What did they learn well? What did they find was difficult? What did they find wasn't true? Maybe there's something in your topic that they have questions on now that they've completed the project. This is a good way to sum up what you have just done in your classroom. Video recording of learner engagement is really nice for group presentations or individual presentations. Recording the student and then going over the recording with the student after the fact, you can show them this is where you were really strong, this is where you were really weak, this is where you might have been really nervous and you didn't need to be. It gives them an opportunity to strengthen their presenting skills, and it shows that they can create a product for you that you can assess that doesn't have anything to do with a standard multiple choice or essay exam. Time-delayed assessment of learner-created products is something where you would create a product in the beginning of a semester, at the beginning of a unit, then teach the unit or teach the whole semester and revisit the product. It's another example of reflection. Perhaps the student does the project again with all the knowledge that they've just learned. Perhaps they just go through and see where they could do better next time. It is an amazing way to show the students how much they've learned this semester or unit. It helps them build confidence in your subject, and it helps them build confidence as student learners altogether.
At this moment, if you have any questions, please ask them. If you have more questions regarding the use of active learning in your classrooms, feel free to consult instructional design consultants at the Idea Shop. Every college and department has an assigned instructional design consultants. So if you have questions, please visit us and we'll be glad to help you. If you have questions related to testing, please contact
Maria Schimmel at the Online Testing Center. I am listed in the directory as well as on the Online Testing Center website, and I would be happy to help you.
Thank you.
Thank you.